As we all know, we commit mistakes. But the thing is, every mistake comes with a penalty. That price that we have to pay always depends upon the mistake we made. It could be really minor, and it could also be disastrous. But now, always mistakes are accountable for. Some people go ahead and go against the law, and then it isn't a mistake. It's a crime. And a crime comes with a punishment. But the punishment depends on which crime you have committed. Well, in the modern world, punishments aren't that heinous, but still they are bad enough. But if we go back to the past and look at the way people used to get punished, well, you could even puke after seeing something like that. There are multiple punishments that are way worse than you can think, and every punishment is bad enough. So we can't actually rate them on a scale, as every single one is way worse than your imagination. So we're just going to state every single one of them without giving them a specific position. Today we are counting down the worst punishments in history, so without further delay, let's get into it. First, we got the rack. The rack is a simple machine but can kill someone with a lot of pain. The pain that the person experiences when he is sent to die by the pain is unimaginable. It's a simple machine with a rectangular frame, some levers, pulleys, and chains. The person is tied on the rectangular frame, and his hands and legs are bound. The levers are pulled to a point where the person's body is stretched to the brink, where every joint and the muscles are torn apart. Trust me, it's not a good way to die. Every joint will be dislocated and the person will be experiencing a lot of pain. Most people who are sentenced to die by the rack pass out in an instant, but due to the pain, get woken up again and again and die a horrible death. Next up, we have hanged, drawn, and quartered. This is something close to what happens in today's world when someone is sentenced to hang till death. This method usually took place in the Middle Ages in England. This method was used when someone committed treason against the state. Yeah, that wasn't a good time to commit a coup d'etat. In this method, the person was hanged till almost dead and then taken down and disemboweled. And also his manhood was cut. Don't ask me, I don't know what they do if it's a woman. For instance, I can't even imagine how disgusting it would be. I mean, how these people enjoyed this kind of execution. Yes, all these things used to take place in front of several thousand people. Later on, their body is chopped up into pieces and sometimes their head is hung in public. Disgusting. Thank God that they abolished this punishment in England in 1860. That's one of the best decisions they made, I guess. Next up, we have the Judas Chair. It's not a good way to die. God, who am I kidding? None of these are a good way to die. No one knows when exactly this chair was used, but there are pictures that show that yes, this was used, and some museums even have this on display. This chair had a pyramid-shaped structure on top of it, and in medieval times, the person who was punished to die by this has to sit on the top of it. Their hands and legs were tied, and slowly they were pushed down. Now, sometimes they also used weights to make this process faster, but without weight it was also extremely painful as it entered the butthole. But when some sort of weight or lubricant is used, it becomes more painful. The person will surely die by this in a few hours, and sometimes in a day, and those who survive would die because of the infection. Next up, we have boiled. Well, this is self-explanatory. This used to happen in England in the 1500s. King Henry VIII introduced this as a form of punishment to those who committed a crime against the kingdom. But later on, it spread all over Europe and parts of Asia. As you must have guessed, the person who committed the crime is boiled alive in a kettle filled with water, oil, or tar. Next up, we have the Catherine wheel, also called the breaking wheel. This simple structure was used in the 19th century in parts of Asia and Eastern Europe. The process was simple. The criminal was tied onto the wheel, and the executioner used a heavy object like a piece of iron and keeps on hitting the criminal until his body is in pieces. This could take from a few hours to a day. Yeah, these people were cruel, and they didn't hit the criminal on the head. They tortured him by hitting him in the body first. Next up we have is related to skin. No, I'm not talking about a skin disease or skin cancer. What I'm talking about is flaying. If you are a Game of Thrones fan, then you must know what I'm talking about. In this method, a person's skin is cut from his muscles, but in Chinese books, it is said that they only did it with the facial skin. Sometimes they used to burn the skin to make it easier to cut the skin, or sometimes to make it look nastier. It is also said that the English did this in the 13th century to thieves and people like that, but in China, the emperor ordered the flaying of 5,000 women in 1357, but a different book says it was in the year 1396. This was practiced all over the world during the 13th century only. Next up, we have the head crusher. And if you are bad in English and not able to understand what this thing is, then allow me to help. Imagine your head is locked in a position and your chin is placed on a metal plate. Your body is locked and you can't move. Then your head is pressed down inch by inch and eventually your bones will start to crush. And soon enough you will die. Yeah, with a lot of screams and pain. The next method we're going to talk about is brutal and slow and painful. We are talking about death by 1,000 cuts. The idea is that the prisoner's entire body is stripped naked and tied up, and his body is cut with a knife. But then it would take a long time to die as the cuts are small. Eventually, the person will die. This is a slow and painful way, as the blood loss would let you be dizzy. This method was famous in China but not popular outside it. Well, they would choose to stick to boiling. The next brutal method is sawing. In this method, the person who is punished is hung upside down with his legs forming a V. Then 2 men take a large saw and cut the person in half from between his legs. Yes, that's painful and insane. This is very basic and brutal. This method was practiced in the 15th century. Most of the prisoners lived during most of this, but they die eventually. And yes, it would be a dreadful sight. According to the source, sawing was only infrequently used in medieval Europe and China, where sawing horizontally through the middle was an alternative. This method was practiced differently, but in the end, everyone was sawed. It was like math. The method could be different, but the result is the same. The next method is rats. Yeah, these people were crazy for discovering different ways to kill someone. I also wonder who were these people who were searching for the new ways to kill the prisoner. You can just behead them, but no, you have to give them pain and suffering. These people love to listen to the screams. The concept is that a prisoner is locked in a cell with lots of hungry rats, and then they would eat the prisoner because of their hunger. Many books suggest that their belly was filled and then cut open, so now these rats would go for the food and would also eat the flesh with it. There are multiple ways to use rats to kill. One of them suggests that a rat is locked in a cage, and that is placed on top of the stomach of the prisoner, and then the cage is heated and the rat is forced to eat its way to save himself. Well, personally speaking, I don't think a rat can eat its way through a stomach. Well, that would be it for today. Now you guys have to tell us in the comment section which method you think is the worst of them all. Please let us know your thoughts. Do subscribe to the channel for more awesome lists just like this, and don't forget to press the bell icon to stay notified. We hope to see you again.